Almond milk, modern fad or medieval wonder? Actually, I suppose it's a little bit of both. Even though many people have rediscovered the joys of almond milk in the modern world for a variety of reasons, lactose intolerance, casein allergies, maybe they're trying to reduce their sugar or carb load. Almond milk actually has a very long, 1,000-year or more history, at least in European cuisine, and in other places perhaps even longer. So, how do you make almond milk? It's actually not very hard at all, whether you do the medieval method or the modern method. You might be asking yourself though, but Contessa, why would I make my own almond milk? I can buy it at any store. Yeah, okay. Have you seen the ingredients? It's a chemistry set at best, and if you're really lucky, then the worst thing in it is sugar. Right, so how much almonds are in your commercially made almond milk? The answer is not much, usually 5% almonds, and the rest is water and a host of things that trick you into thinking it's something it isn't. So if you make your own, then you control what goes into it, including the amount of almonds. It was an extremely common ingredient in many dishes, and in fact, where in modern dishes we may use cow's milk, 95% of medieval dishes in Europe at any rate called for almond milk. Why, you might ask? Well, think about it. If you don't have a cow sitting in your courtyard ready to milk and give you fresh dairy product, then you might not be so eager to have the milk that's been sitting unrefrigerated on your counter for days. Therefore, almond milk presents a very nutritious yet shelf-stable alternative, and one that you can make at the drop of a hat, especially if you have, children on hand, or if you're better off, perhaps servants who can grind the almonds into a fine sort of paste and then strain them and create your almond milk. So let's go ahead and go to the kitchen and make our own almond milk. But today's lesson, I'm afraid, is not going to be medieval almond milk in the sense of using medieval techniques or implements, because I don't have any of that right now. Ironically, the only thing I have at hand right now is a high caliber modern power blender. So I'm going to show you how to make almond milk super quickly using the items of convenience that are hopefully sitting about your own kitchen. So while it may be tricky to find almond milk recipes as such, sort of listed separately in the various medieval cookbooks and recipe collections, if you actually start looking at the recipes themselves that call for almond milk, you will sometimes find hidden in those instructions the instructions on how to actually make the almond milk itself that you will need for that recipe. So I'm going to, let's look at one of those recipes right now. So the source that we're looking at is Du Fait de Cuisine, which is a collection of recipes by Master Chicart, who was a Chicard, who was a master cook of the early 15th century. And he left behind an extensive trove of recipes that's very useful in identifying the sort of dishes that were enjoyed by the peers of France at this time. And one of those recipes specifically describes how to make almond milk. He says, flans of almond milk. According to the quantity of flan which you are making, take the quantity of almonds, have them well and cleanly blanched and washed, and then have them very well brayed. And take very clean, fair water and let him strain his almond milk into a bowl, or a cornu, which is fair and clean, according to the quantity of flans which he should make. So, lots of interesting details here. For instance, cleanliness, the focus on cleanliness in making your almond milk. So all of your implements should be duly sanitized. And actually in this period, people were often using salt to clean their items and then putting them in the sun to have them dry. And even though medieval people may not have understood the mechanism behind drying things in the sun, they understood obviously that the outcomes were better for the diners. So if you want to engage in a little medieval UV light sanitation, because maybe you live in some place like, I don't know, a desert, feel free to do so. Let's go to the counter. Almonds in a bowl, and then warm water over top, and we're going to let these soak until they're soft. That's going to make it a lot easier to make your almond milk. So this is step one, soaking your almonds. Right, so we have now soaked them but they need to be blanched. On all recipes that I have found, medieval almond milk recipes blanch the almonds. So that means we're going to be getting these skins off, which will give us a smoother almond milk. And also will remove some of the things that prevent you from digesting almonds properly. So we're going to put them in a pot, add a bunch of water to it, and then we're going to bring it to a boil. And basically you boil it until the skins actually start coming off, and you'll see that. The whole purpose is it's going to loosen the skins and make it so that we can literally easily squeeze the almonds out of their skins, or in some cases, the almonds will just pop out on their own, which will be great. Pot of water on, high heat, and yeah, we'll come back to this when it's ready to be drained and peeled. Okay, let's check our almonds. Okay, as you can see, they're boiling. I'm gonna just grab one. So here we go. And you'll notice that skin pops right off. So these are ready to go. So I'm going to drain them and let them cool slightly, and then just peel those little skins off. And now we drain them. Remember to stand back from the steam. Hold your hands up high enough so that the steam cools by the time it reaches you. Steam burns are awful. So now we just pop them out, and I'm actually going to collect these skins. I haven't personally read of any medieval uses for almond skins. I'm going to look into that a little bit more, but a quick search on Google, I guess I could actually put these in a second bowl. A quick search on Google led me to find out that find a recipe for bacon bit almond peels. So I'm going to be trying that out. So I guess we'll do a little quick video on that for anyone who wants, you know, almond peel bacon bits. Something else interesting happened while I was soaking these. You can actually see these sprouted. See the little sprout there? Remember, almonds are, after all, a form of seed, and that sprouting is actually good because it makes the micronutrients in the almonds much more bioavailable to your body, meaning that you'll actually get nutritional benefit out of them. So that's a good thing. Yay, victory! Almonds are soaked, drained, and peeled, and now it's time to get to the serious business of making the milk. As with many aspects of cooking, almond milk is a question of ratios, and there are a lot of different ratios of almonds to water in almond milk that's commercially available in the modern world. In the medieval world, we're actually not for certain what the ratio was, but I will say that it was at least enough almonds to create enough fat and protein in the milk in order to be able to churn it into butter, which means it had to have been a relatively high ratio. So I'm going to go with a 2-to-1 ratio of almonds to water. So what that means is we have twice as much water as almonds. Now I have measured this, and it is roughly in American volumetric terms, 2.5 cups, which is like a liter, 1.25 liters. I'll clarify that if that estimate is not correct, volumetrically speaking. Now, my blender is not super big, so it has a maximum of maximum volume of 1 liter, really 5 cups-ish. So I'm going to do this in 2 batches. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our almonds to our blender. And I've pre-measured the amount of water I'm going to need. This is hot water. I brought it to a boil, and it's slightly cooled, so it's probably at about 170 degrees Fahrenheit or about 80 degrees centigrade right about now. So I'm going to add about half of this, more or less up to my maximum point. Now keep in mind these almonds are soft, and now we're going to turn it on. And I would recommend, because this is hot water, I would recommend just a little vent to let some of that hot air out, because if you don't, it will actually explode out. So here we go. going to add a little bit of salt. And I could actually add a little bit of sugar. There's one medieval almond milk recipe I found actually specifically says to add sugar, especially if it's not sweet enough, but I actually prefer my almond milk not be sweetened. So if you like your almond milk sweetened and you would like medieval almond milk, then adding sweetener is apparently a perfectly legitimate option. In fact, the one recipe I think I found said if you don't have sugar, you can add honey even if you like. So onward. So medieval recipes call for you to strain the almond milk after braying the almonds very finely. Bray is the 14th, 15th century English word for grinding. But I prefer not to strain my almonds out when I use the blender, because the blender chops them so fine that it really just adds a nice extra layer of richness and thickness. But for authentic medieval almond milk, you should actually pour this into a cheesecloth. Now, I'll be doing a video on how to make almond milk using medieval methods at some point in the future when I get access to my medieval kitchen equipment again. And then you can see the difference between this and how milky and fine it is using modern food processing techniques versus using a mortar and pestle and straining it out. So I've also often wondered what one did with the strained out almond, because I actually have not found any recipes that call for strained ground almond mash, leftovers of almond milk. If you know of any medieval references to utilizing the dregs for making almond milk, then please do let me know in the comments. Okay, onward with our almond milk. Tip on how to get the dregs out of your blender while also making it easier to clean. So as you can see, there's actually some sediment here. We've got some almond chunks and some little bit of almond milk. So I'm going to add a little bit more hot water. Not too much, not enough to really throw my ratios off. You'll see also there's a bunch in the lid here. My very now messy lid. And then holding my hands on, I will just shake up and down. And that allows me to get the rest out of there. And as you can see, there's a lot less left in the pitcher. So that works for pretty much anything that you do in a blender like this. Add a little bit of water, and if it's a little heavier or thicker than almond milk, say foodstuffs that are denser, then you can actually turn it on and let the blender actually help you get the rest out. Okay, here is tasting the almond milk in my nice medieval glass. Just enough salt to give it the flavor it needs. I will say that without straining it, I wouldn't exactly call this a beverage. So if you want it as a beverage, definitely go ahead and strain it, put it in a cheesecloth, squeeze the living hell out of it. Nut milks will not last that long in the fridge. I found out the hard way when a whole batch of like 1.5 gallons of cashew milk I'd made turned into yogurt. Not the kind that you'd want to eat either. So I recommend freezing what you're not going to use immediately. And if I'm in a better equipped kitchen at the moment, I would actually be putting this in an ice cube tray so that you have your almond milk already pre-divided into portionable sizes. That failing, in this jar, into the freezer it goes. If you're going to put it in a jar, make sure that there's plenty of room at the top for it to expand, any liquid, whether it's almond milk or broth, whatever, because the liquid will expand as it freezes. And if there's no room for it to expand up, it will break the glass. So, into the freezer. It doesn't fit. Push things harder and everything will fit. But I think that using it in recipes with the almonds ground into it will actually probably enrich your recipes significantly. Speaking of which, coming up soon, I will be using this exact same almond milk to make a pottage of fava beans, a fava bean pudding, if you will. Until then, cook creatively. Well, if you enjoyed that content, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to benefit from extra value, then do consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon, where you will receive access to a host of extra benefits, more video content, longer video content, Also digital downloads with instructions, recipes, and depending on your level of patronage, private lessons from moi, the Contessa. Okay, enjoy.